Hello, all. A warm welcome to another episode of California MBA's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion podcast. I am Vibhor Mishra, and I'm a member of the CMBA's DEI committee, and I'm based in the Bay Area. California MBA's DEI committee was established about a year ago with a goal to promote and encourage DEI in the real estate finance industry. The committee provides educational and networking opportunities to the California MBA members so that the face of our industry continues to reflect our community. One of my personal favorites is a series of podcasts where our guest speakers share their DEI perspectives and inspiring stories that we hope our listeners, you, can learn from. You can find out more about the podcast, about the committee, and other related resources at cmba.com. So with that, let's get today's episode of California MBA's DEI podcast underway. It is a great privilege to welcome our distinguished guest for today's episode, Madisyn Rhone. Madisyn is Government and Industry Relations Manager for Enact Mortgage Insurance, formerly known as Genworth USMI. Enact provides mortgage insurance products and services in all 50 states and District of Columbia since 1981. Madisyn represents Enact on the Hill and aids in the development of legislative and regulatory strategy. Prior to that, she worked in various departments of Enact, including risk, pricing, and operations, where she gained technical and holistic experiences that informs her policy strategies today. A very warm welcome to the podcast, Madisyn. I'm so looking forward to our conversation. Where does this podcast find you today?
Hi, Vibhor. Thank you. And you guys find me in Washington, D.C.
Oh, I should have guessed that. Let's start things off by talking a bit about your personal journey, if you don't mind. Tell us how you got into the mortgage industry and the role of your family in that.
Yeah, well, I was first introduced to the mortgage industry at a job fair in North Carolina, which is a historically Black college and university in Greensboro, North Carolina. It was there that I spoke to a recruiter who told me a little bit about the company culture, their experiences working for Enact now, but it was Genworth at the time. And I really was interested, and I thought it was a really good opportunity. I was also really impressed by all the volunteerism that they did. So I went home, I did some research because I had an interview the next morning, knew nothing about the mortgage industry at all, nonetheless the mortgage insurance industry. But when I was looking and did some research, I thought it actually sounded really interesting, especially mortgage insurance in particularly. I thought the mission of making the dream of homeownership more possible for more people across the United States was something I could really get behind. And how my family kind of plays into that is, for me, my personal background, I come from a family that's committed to service, and it has a lot of focus around the community. My mom is a rehabilitation counselor. She helps people with disabilities get jobs. And my dad started a nonprofit when I was really young called Youth Excited About Sports that was focused on underserved youth. And so there was a lot of service, a lot of selflessness in my family, and my childhood really instilled a desire within me to serve a greater purpose in the work I do and to do my best to leave a positive impact where I go. And as cliche as it might sound, try to leave a place better than you found it. And so I'm really thankful that I've been able to experience that and really fulfill that purpose within myself at Enact. And later in our conversation, I can share some of those examples. But overall, so happy to be in the mortgage insurance industry. It's been a fun and exciting journey, and I think it's an industry that a lot more people of color and young people can really benefit by getting exposed to and can have really successful and fun career paths.
Great story, and I couldn't agree more, Madisyn. And I hope and I'm sure this conversation with you today motivates a lot of young people and young people of color to get and join this industry. Now switching gears, can you talk to us about some examples of DEI conversations at Enact at your company, and specifically about the MIDP program? I've heard a lot about that.
Yeah, so a lot has happened over the last couple of years that has elevated the conversation of economic and racial equality. Just to name a few, there's been events such as the global pandemic that we're in year 3 of, which is hard to believe, the tragic murder of George Floyd, the passing of Congressman John Lewis. All of these things and many more have really increased the focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion in the workplace. And today, D&I is really mainstream, as you guys probably know, and your industry or your company But with that, I believe comes pros and cons. And Enact is on their own journey and where we fit into the DEI space. But every single day, we're evolving. And the journey we're on right now includes education with the goal to take informed and intentional action. And I think that's really important for individuals and companies not to get caught in the education loop, but to make sure that that education is driving tangible, positive outcomes. But one of the things we do internally is we have 7 employee-led resource groups, 2 connection points, and all of these are focused on cultivating a community within Enact that really celebrates and honors the culture and traditions of colleagues. I've personally been a part of a few employee resource groups, and I've had a really fantastic experience. It's also a really good way to build a community with colleagues outside of just your everyday bubble of people you see and do your immediate work with. But equally as important is we also have an external focus at Enact where we're working to address the minority homeownership gap, creating volunteer and scholarship programs that target diverse populations, collaborating with the GSEs and other industry partners. We now audit external facing materials for cultural sensitivity. And of course, the MIDP program, which is the Mortgage Insurance Development Program, Mortgage Industry Development Program, excuse me, which is a mortgage finance skills program that targets students at HBCUs all across the country. And it's an entry-level program, so it's helping them develop the key skills they would need to have any kind of entry-level job. And we're doing this we are doing this program in partnership with an organization called Home Free USA, and what's within their umbrella, they have a program called Center for Financial Advancement, which is a program specifically designed for college students. Mm-hmm. It's a program that gives students the tools needed to build up the next generation of Black homebuyers and cultivate a workforce that mirrors homebuyers of today and tomorrow. And so I just love their mission. It's been fantastic to work with them. They've been a really great organization. And many of the students from our first cohort last fall expressed that not only are they first generation college students and they aspire to be first generation homebuyers, but what I was really touched and moved by is they also want to take this, what they're learning, and share it with their community and share it with others so that they can not only uplift themselves, but uplift others. And for me, that was just really touching and kind of a reminder of whenever we're doing this kind of work in the diversity, equity, and inclusion space, that you never know how our impacts can have ripple effects. And even if we pour into one person, it can actually impact more people than we could ever imagine. So I'm really excited about the future of this program, and it's just been wonderful to work on it. And we begin our second cohort of students in February. So I'm looking forward to that.
Wow, so impressive. That's so impressive. Mortgage Industry Development Program, MIDP, so impressive. And as you said, I'm so glad that it has that network effect. So the students are going back, of course they're learning, and they're going back and giving it back to their communities and helping other first generation home buyers. That's so cool. Let's extend this thought a little further, Madisyn, if you don't mind. So how does this program, you think, and the opportunities we are providing to entry-level students, it's helping with progress towards equality in the industry? And I think it's so important in not just the mortgage industry, but also in home ownership.
Yeah, well, I love the work that I've been able to do through the Mortgage Industry Development Program. And for me, it's personal because I was an HBCU student and I know what it's like to go into an industry and not really have a lot of background, not know a lot of things, so that the value of mentorship and someone that can expose you to opportunities that you didn't know was there is so valuable. But this project, outside of just the personal nature of it, really fits into the bigger goal and bigger passion for me, and that is the Black homeownership gap, addressing economic inequality. And I think there's a real economic divide in our country, and when you break it down by racial groups, there's no denying that the Black community specifically really needs to be poured into, and we need to look at this, look at real solutions on how we can address this issue. And I mean, the net worth of a white family is almost 10 times greater than that of a Black family. And the homeownership gap between Black and white households as of last year was about a 30% difference. So using homeownership as a tool to address these issues, I believe, can be really impactful and increase sustainable homeownership, which is the key. It has to be sustainable, of course, to get that wealth creation. And I think that's how this fits into the mortgage industry development program. Is it's really good and important to provide financial education, but I also believe we need to focus on these issues holistically. And part of that holistic approach, I believe, is creating job opportunities that can build the kind of wealth necessary to get into a home and to have a strong financial future. It's also a smart business decision. As you know, I'm sure you've read and others have read that boards and companies that have more diverse workforce perform better financially, but also in our industry, in the mortgage industry specifically, I think it's a good business decision, and it's smart for us to be thinking how to serve our customers best. Because although there are some like sad numbers and the homeownership gap is a real issue, but there are steps that are being taken to correct those. And the future first-time home buyers in particular are going to increasingly become people of color. And so if we have, as CFA's mission says, a workforce that looks like the borrowers we're going to serve, I think we're going to serve them a lot better, and our customers will be happier. So I'm energized by seeing the focus that many companies in the mortgage industry are giving to address economic inequality and racial inequality. We just got to keep going and remain committed and take intentional action. And I believe both the big things and the small things, they all matter to making the progress we need.
The big thing and the small thing, they all matter. Every step counts. Indeed, it does, Madisyn. And I'm so impressed by the work that you're doing, the progress that you're making. And I clearly see you're having fun while doing that. I can keep talking about this all day. However, we'll have to pick it back up later, another day, I guess, as that's all we have time for today. Thank you so much, Madisyn. Thank you for sharing your experiences. They were incredible. Thanks, Madisyn, again.
Yes, thanks, Vibhor.
And thank you, listeners. Please do leave feedback in the comment section below and share the podcast link with your coworkers. You want more and more of your colleagues and coworkers to watch this. You can also send suggestions for guest speakers, and do subscribe to CMBA's YouTube channel to get notified. This is Vibhor Mishra signing off. Thanks again.